I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil.
Yeah.
Probably stuff that we'll say anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I know Jack. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the only one not in LA.
Yeah, no.
I'm the oddball out, but I'm thinking of coming out there soon.
Hell yeah.
Sunny California. We'll see about that. Depends if they're like letting people in or not. I don't know. You guys are kind of crazy out there. We're like right below your level of crazy in Jersey.
Yeah, it's a little intense out here.
All right. Well, this is the Reckless Musecast. I'm Ben DeLessio, and I'm here with Joe Garza, my co-host.
Hey. Hello, everyone.
And joining us today are two very special guests, two gentlemen that I know very well. I grew up with in northern New Jersey, Vinnie Falcone and Pat Colicchio. They're both they're from New Jersey, but they live in LA also, so I'm the odd man out here. And they're both up-and-coming comedians and actors and screenwriters and all those other things that you do when you move out to LA. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Vinnie Falcone. Ben and I have known each other basically since what?
Well,
Middle
we went
school?
to Glenwood together. We went to elementary school, right?
That's right. Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to elementary school together, and then so we've known each other, and I moved there in like first grade. I'm assuming you went to kindergarten there, right? So
Yeah.
like probably since the beginning.
Mhm.
And then Pat, we've known each other since, I mean, probably in elementary school, but we didn't go together, but we played sports and stuff. So middle school though, we'd go to the same school. It's been a while.
Yeah, and I started doing stand-up. I guess, what was it just after I graduated? Actually, I started in college. Like my buddies were trying to convince me to do open mics, and I was too nervous. So I started.
Well, explain to everyone also what was, because your college experience is different from the rest of ours.
Yes, very good point. So
Yeah.
since middle school, I wanted to go into the military. So I went to a military college, which is different than an academy. Basically, you go there and you participate in the Corps Cadets, but you're not obligated to serve unless you get a contract. And I didn't get a contract because kind of stupid. So the test scores were low. I took the ASVAB, which is basically the military version of the SAT. It's like the Armed Services Aptitude Battery Test or something like that. And high scores obviously are great. Low scores are terrible, like most things. And I remember I finished the test and I walked out, and a Marine recruiter was like, "All right, let's see what scores you got." And he looked at it and he goes, "Whoa, this is new infantry."
So wait, so was your school? Was it like it wasn't connected to any particular branch? It was like its own thing.
So the Corps Cadets are different than the Academy. So the Academy is like West Point,
gotcha.
Naval Academy, Coast Guard Academy. The Corps Cadets are like the Citadel, VMI.
Wait, Citadel's not like with the Marines? That's not a Marine thing? Oh shit.
So
Okay.
with the Corps Cadets, you have every branch within that college. But the Corps Cadets is something, it's almost like a club basically. And then you can also apply to get contracts for different branches that all of those colleges have, like they have the Coast Guard, they have the Navy, they have the Marines, Army.
Yeah, I remember because I mean, I'm sure we would get to this, but we worked together on and off for like 5 years.
Right, that's right.
At a liquor store, which made it sounds pretty mundane, but working with Vinny was fantastic, especially the way that he would mess with customers. But I remember talking to you because you were going through this at the time, and I remember like assuming that you were shooting stuff and blowing stuff up, and you're like, "No, we don't shoot guns." I'm like, "You don't shoot guns? Like, what? When you go to a military school, you're not shooting guns? You're just getting up at like the crack of dawn and doing all the tough shit." I'm picturing it like it's Full Metal Jacket here, but you're not doing the fun part. So I don't know. It seemed like the worst of both worlds, but.
It was bad. Yeah.
He's too dumb to be in Full Metal Jacket.
It's bad. It was a horrible place.
Yeah, it was up in Vermont.
That's right.
I'm surprised they let that happen. I don't know. I think they just like push over to New Hampshire, given Vermont's politics.
I mean, in our little town that had like a barbershop and a pizzeria that was dog shit,
Yeah.
It was like gung ho military, and then you went like 30 minutes north into Burlington, and there's like chicks with fucking arm hair and stuff.
Yeah.
They're just
Oh, yeah.
wildly different
Vermont,
worlds.
but a sidebar about Vermont pizza. So I had a cousin who went to Middlebury, and my dad would go up there. My dad's born and bred Jersey guy, so this kind of breaks my heart. So they would go. I've never been to Vermont, but they would go up there, see her, and go to get pizza and stuff like that. And he comes back, and this is now. He got Ted's retired, so he got a pizza oven because my mom's like, yeah, we don't live within 5 blocks of 50 pizza places, but fine, get a pizza oven. And and he makes this. It's called like ABC pizza. It's like apple, bacon, cheddar. I'm like, Dad, what happened to you? Like, you go to it's like go to Vermont once. It's like a meme. Go to Vermont once, make ABC pizza.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if you ever
Dr.
saw it there,
D'Alessio, you're Italian. You can't be doing that.
yeah, this is the guy who would call he would have a conniption if you could put pineapple on a pizza or talk about pizza from Connecticut. And now he's making ABC pizza. I don't know. People change.
By the way, our names right now in this podcast could easily be leading roles in a Scorsese film.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I even wore my Bruce shirt because it's like
I love it.
I have Jersey guys on. Yeah. So we're gonna get. Obviously, I think we're gonna talk about a lot of childhood stuff. Joe, I don't want to leave you out and ask any questions because this is a podcast about what we call reckless artists, dangerous artists, and comedy is the number one place to do that. Our first episode, we kind of paid homage to Lenny Bruce, who is the godfather of comedy. And we did an episode recently that is going to be coming out soon about Tarantino. He's kind of our favorite director and a dangerous director in terms of just pushing boundaries, doing what you want. We use dangerous really liberally here. But so Pat, you moved out to LA, not with Vinnie, because you visited me actually.
Yeah,
in New Orleans on the way out there, and that was a fantastic experience. We'll get into that, but are you kind of in the same? What do you guys call it? Is it like a circuit, or you do the open mics?
So I moved out here 2 years after Vinnie. He was
okay.
Both convinced me to start doing stand up and to move to LA. And after my first time that I did it, I was like, I'm gonna move out to LA and do this full time.
Okay.
And so we mostly do open mics, 3 to 7 times a week, get on stage. And then we get booked for a show maybe once, twice, like an actual show in front of non-comedians, like once or twice a month.
Right.
Sometimes you get hot months where you get a few. Sometimes you have a month where you have none. It's just
2 months you have none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A year and a half.
You're over a year, almost 15 months.
So I saw, Vinnie, you have a YouTube presence. I don't know how often you upload it, but I saw I know the Comedy Cellar, for instance, that's a big one. So you've obviously done shows in New York, and I know Jersey. Did you start at Scotty's? Were you doing shows at Scotty's?
I started, so like I said, when I was in college in Vermont, my first open mic. So I used to have my friends, before I actually went to a club, so I was too scared, I would have my friends over every Thursday in my room, and I would host my own open mic, and I was the MC and headliner. Right. And come over. And it's a hard spot to get, and I did that for a while, where my friends would come over and watch me, or they would read a poem or talk about their day. It didn't have to be funny. I just wanted to practice that way. And then I did my first mic in at Nectar's in Burlington. It was 5 minutes. Went by like a fucking flash. So much fun though.
Just like a blur. It
was a blur. I mean, it literally felt like I was on stage for maybe a minute. And so usually when you do stand up, you get a light, and that light indicates either 2 minutes, a minute, and I didn't even see the light. And the lady literally pulled my pant leg. I was like, hey, you're done. I'm like, really? Can I just do a little bit longer? How much longer? I'm like, I just do 5 more minutes. She's like, no, get off stage. What the fuck? What are you doing? And then I graduated and then started doing clubs in New York. And then I would do Scotty's here and there, open mic nights and stuff. And yes, that's where I started out in New York. I did a little bit of Scotty's.
Yeah. Okay. Pat, did you do shows on the East Coast at all, or did you just kind of do everything on the West Coast?
I did a couple of open mics on the East Coast before I moved out here. I did 3 open mics and then just came out here. And
so it'd be hard to say if you have a feel for one area. I was going to ask basically what are the crowd differences or anything like that, but you've mostly just done
when you're doing mics, it's kind of all the same. It's just a bunch of comedians who don't really care about what you have to say, or just sitting there on their phone waiting for their turn to go up, and they don't care at all that you're there.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a ton of shows in New York. I was doing shows like, same kind of like frequency now, like once, twice a month. And the venues that I was playing Broadway Comedy Club, always a great room, like super, like I think New York rooms are better than LA rooms in the sense of its construction. Like the clubs that I was going to in New York, I think are the ideal space and confines for comedy, which is everyone's tight, low ceilings, like really packs that energy in. Where out here in LA, like the Comedy Store is obviously amazing, but like the main room is a hard room to play unless it's packed. The OR is a super hard room to play unless it's packed. The belly room is good, but also in LA, there's a lot of other rooms that you play at that aren't actually clubs, which I think is slightly unlike New York City.
Yeah.
But yeah, the crowds in New York were, I would say, like always really receptive and like a great time, you know, because like you're in New York City, it's Friday, it's Saturday night, everyone, you know, you had to come in. Luckily, the clubs that I played, there were a lot of cool drop-ins that happened, you know, so that helps.
Did you have you noticed, and as for either of you, has there been any sort of shift in rooms since you started in like the early 2010s? Has there been any type of shift in like what you can and can't say, or certain premises that used to land, in 2014 don't land in 2021, or has it kind of been the same in your experience?
Probably, maybe more for you because you started before. Like I moved out here in 2017. Yeah. By that point, especially in LA, like the what we know is like woke and PC culture now was in pretty full swing. Like there was nothing that I can say now that like, or that I can't say now that was super cool 4 years ago.
Right.
For me, it was never so much like it being offensive. For me, it was always just like trying to gather enough material to where for those earlier shows, I could do cleaner stuff because that tend to work better than later shows. Like late shows, I'm like a dirty comic, was a really dirty comic. Now I feel like I'm a little more like in the middle and like, can do both. But before, I mean, like, for instance, I did this open mic at Scotty's and I did like some like kind of like dirtier stuff, and it worked because it was later. And like one of the bookers for a different club was like, "Hey man, great set. My name is John. I run, whatever club down the street. Like come by and do a set anytime." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great, thanks." And then I did Scotty's a couple months later, and I did like a 7:00 show. And everyone's literally, Scotty's is a steakhouse, in New Jersey, by the way. So it's 7:00 show. Literally, everyone is eating dinner, like literally eating steak. And all I was doing was like eating like pussy jokes and like dick jokes, and the room hated it. All you could hear was forks and knives, and one lady was like, "This is gross, make them stop." And then the same guy who was like, "Hey man, come by my club anytime," literally looked at me like it was like Happy Gilmore, the dude, and just like shook his head like it was horrible.
What's your I don't know, like, so I as you guys know, I've written some novels, I write short stories and things like that. I'm not in like the entertainment business at all. Joe is more in the kind of LA scene, screenwriting and article writing business. So what, like, we kind of have gone over before, like our processes, I guess. Like what did you guys write every day? Do you only write when you're inspired? Like, are you more habitual? What kind of comics, do you listen to kind of get the juices flowing, things like that?
I'm definitely like a write when inspired kind of guy. Like I don't know, I can't just like sit down and be like, okay, jokes, here they are.
Sure. Yeah.
Be funny and now.
It's, to me, it's just like I see a thing and I go like, okay, this could be a bit. And I've definitely evolved more into like, sometimes I will go into things like looking to make a bit out of it. Like I got a couples massage in Mexico with my girlfriend like a month ago. And as soon as I sat down, I was like, okay, I have to find something here. And I've been working with it since I got back. But it's just a lot of like interactions you have. Like I so much of my material just comes from like shit I see on the internet. And I'm like, because that's always the most outrageous stuff to me. Is like the opinions that people have on the internet is always the wildest thing you'll find.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a shit poster, and I have a burner that Joe knows about, but we keep under wraps. And it's gotten to the point, and I write a lot of satirical things, like especially with short stories, kind of whatever, you know, I'm criticizing. It's just one of my preferred methods. But it's getting to the point where it's like life has, you know, become beyond parody. It's crazy that it's kind of like the best material is just what's actually happening. So we might as well just write nonfiction. And I don't know if you guys have seen that with your work and your bits, but to me, it's getting to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm just going to start documenting instead of writing my own stuff. What about, so there's been obviously with COVID in 2020, there's been a huge shift, I feel like, to out of necessity, a lot of comedians and all types of people in the entertainment industry having to put things just like on their social media. Like I know you guys have done that. I was watching some of that before, and I've been following both of you since you went out there. What, you know, I feel like especially, yeah, Vinny and Pat, you guys were both making these videos a while ago. Have you seen like an uptick in that? And what about the quality of what comedians are putting out there? Do you think it's like mostly trash, or do you think this is like good for the business?
I mean, so I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, probably, I would say probably an uptick for people.
Yeah.
Because like for me personally, like we started doing the sketches. I started a solo podcast,
Yeah.
and it was something to do to kind of like flex that creative muscle. I think a lot of people felt that who couldn't do stand-up or weren't going on auditions. You kind of needed to do something to just feel creative. So definitely I saw an uptick in that. And then as far as, in my personal opinion, I'm not trying to like shit on anybody, so I won't mention any names, but I feel like those people who have a super, super strong Instagram presence or YouTube presence, not all, but I feel like most, honestly, who just post content like every couple days, whatever.
Yeah.
90%, I think, is not funny.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, listen, they're far more successful than me. They have more money. They know what they have to do. It's internet is a, you know, an equation where it's like, you know, how much stuff do you put out there? Because if you put more out there, you know, it'll show to more people. So I understand what they're doing. But for me personally, I'd rather just make less stuff and have all of it be really good quality than just like pump out shit. I don't know.
So this reminds me a little bit of Joe Rogan was talking about this a while back. He had a comedian on his show, and he was talking about how with like the current like digital social media age, how a lot of comedians, like they're not so much comedians anymore, but so much like content producers, where it's like, oh, you know, it's like when you see their bios, it doesn't just say I'm a comedian. It says like, oh, I'm a content producer, I'm a writer, I'm a sketch, blah blah blah. So it's almost kind of like diluting. I shouldn't say necessarily diluting, because yeah, like there were some talented people out there, but it is. He's like, you know, back in my day, it's like if you were a comedian, all you had to like, the only way to get to the top was just busting your ass, doing three or four shows a night, every night, any night that you could. And he goes, that's how you built up your talent. But nowadays, it's like, oh, I could just buy a camera and I could just write some little sketch and just do it in my living room. It's sort of like, you know, are you guys worried about that? Do you think like you know, the landscape of comedy is changing because of COVID, or it's kind of a fad?
I think it's less because of COVID and more because like what you were talking about with like the social media stuff and like how you get exposed. And there's good and bad sides too, you know, with like the internet and social media. Andrew Schultz wouldn't be as big as he is, and he's a pretty pure comedian. Guys like Mo Mandel and Mark Norman, Sam Morril, like they all got way bigger. Again. Yeah, they all got way bigger because of social media, and they're legitimately funny. Yeah. But there are definitely like comedians who are really just a social media presence. Right. And because they have a ton of followers, they can sell tickets. Yeah. And because they can sell tickets, they're like, they book shows, not because they're better at comedy than other people. And I definitely agree with him that like, yeah, a lot of those people tend not to be like most of the people with the 100,000 to 1 million followers from their social media presence, not from their comedy, tend to be worse because it's sort of, it's very formulaic. It's like you know, what's the most popular music? It's rarely the best music. Right. It's the music that like they figured out how to market to the most people. It's the same with social media.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even like.
I get a little worried that like, am I going to make it in this landscape where I have to be this formula?
Yeah. I don't even like that. Even the term content is kind of like it used to be copy. I feel like it used like that's what we used to call it back when things were really in print. But now it's like content, and it just has that like sheen of Instagram to it that just rubs me the wrong way. But you're right. There are just, I mean, aren't they literally called like content farms or like meme farms? It's kind of like the same thing, like content farms and meme farms. And I don't know. It does feel like it feels like it's diluting culture in a way, but also, as you pointed out, like the cream will rise to the top, right? That's the term. And those people will succeed. And I do think that's great because some people, you're right, would not have gotten where they are without social media if you had to do it like the traditional way. Have you guys, so yeah, when did you start your podcast? And you can plug it, by the way. Go for it.
The podcast is called Going Nowhere Fast. And we started it
2 years ago
when you moved here, right?
No, it was after that.
Really?
It felt like it's been a while now.
I feel like it's like 2 years
Oh,
ago.
you're right. Yeah, I think 2 years. Maybe 3.
Have you noticed an uptick since COVID or no?
So Pat and I, our podcast was guest based.
Yeah.
So we would do like, just the two of us every now and then, but it was 95% guest based. So we took a huge hiatus during COVID because no one wanted to do it. We did like a couple ones. But then we started going like, listen, let's just make it us based instead. Because I feel like him and I riff really well together and talk about shit and have like very like Seinfeldian conversations. They're kind of like in our own style, we think, and then have the guests come on every now and then. So we were kind of like changing our structure of the podcast. I think has changed a couple different times. Like originally it started as just a comic thing, like comedians talking about comedy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Obviously that's like very narrowing. And then we did like, all right, let's just have anybody who's interesting. And that kind of, broadened the spectrum a little bit of listeners. And then now it's kind of just like, well, let's just talk shit for an hour or 45 minutes. And then every now and then we'll have someone we think is interesting or funny on to be a guest.
That's kind of what we're doing too. We're like figuring it out. Like our thing is about, like I guess I used the whatever term, but like artists, we're using very liberally here. So, but it's kind of whatever that is. But yeah, we had we didn't even have an artist on as our first guest, a masculinity studies professor. And then we had a musician and
he's probably gonna bachelor of arts, right?
It was a good podcast. It's just funny that was our first. Well, it was Twitter. It was a Twitter spat that we all kind of joined in on, and I was like, let's have her on, and we're like, totally, like that's what we're all about. But I was listening to the episode that you sent me, and I listened to your podcast before, and when it was just straight comedians. This one was a comedian also, and I think it was you, Vinnie, who said, because I wanted to ask the question, what's the end goal here? But or not the end goal, but what's a goal, and that would be like specials, right? Like that's a huge thing for a comedian to get a special or like your hour, whatever that is. And I think you said like there's however because a ton I feel like came out over COVID, and now just come out all the time on Netflix, and it's like, are they as good? Like a lot of them, because you're right, I've listened to a good amount, and I don't feel like they're as good as they used to be, and I think that's because as we were getting at earlier with social media and content, all of that, it's all about like instant gratification, and people are doing specials really before they're ready to, before they're ripe. Again, I'm not in this industry, so I don't know shit about it. I just hear this on other podcasts where it's like people are rushing this. You really need however many years to do it, and it's going out much earlier. And so do you guys think that there's been a decrease in quality with these specials?
I mean, it's one of those things that's person to person. It's so easy for like the guy who's never had a comedy special comedy. Like, I remember when specials were special. And like, because only George Carlin was doing them. It was like George Carlin, Dice, and Sam Kinison had the only three of
Richard Pryor.
And so like, when it's the three biggest names in the history of comedy are the only guys coming out, then of course they're all gonna be great. But like then people just realize there's a market for other people that like most people might not think it's as good, but some people are gonna really love this thing.
And also I think even if you watch someone who's as established as Joe Rogan or Whitney Cummings or Nikki Glaze, whatever, people who are legit, hardcore, funny comics, right? There's always that separation of watching a special in your living room and
in
being
person.
you know? So like, do I think there's been a slight oversaturation? I think a little bit, but is that so bad if these people are people who've been doing like comedy for 10, 15 years? Like, you know, I think everyone should have their time to shine. And just because it's overly saturated doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and this happens in all different types of industries. It's like, it's definitely good for comedians. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You get out there much earlier, you make more money. Is it good for comedy? And I think those are two different questions. And as comedians, you probably say, well, I don't give a shit. Like, I need to make a living, right? Doing what I love. And I think that, you know, those are fair points. But yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so this actually reminds me a little bit. So Zach, my roommate, who's a comedian in LA as well, he was telling me like about how when the COVID restrictions really started to kick in here, a lot of comedians started doing like Zoom, like open mic things, and he was just kind of like, yeah, I'm doing once in a while, but I don't know, it's hard to do stuff that you designed for a live audience, but now you're doing it in front of a screen, and it's just like not getting that feedback. So he doesn't do them as much now. And obviously things are opening up now, but he was talking to me about how like comedians who just did, you know, like digital open mics, he goes, yeah, I can't help but wonder if like, they're not gonna be ready to do live stuff because like for them, like they created jokes just to be able to work on a screen, but not in front of a live audience where you can get feedback and change your inflections. Because yeah, so I'm wondering if there's gonna be kind of like a dip in quality of live comedy for a bit when now that things are opening back up again. I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on that at all? Or
yeah, how did you guys adapt?
I mean, so I've seen a couple of people at open mics who like, this is my first live open mic. Like they'd been doing it, and they were all really bad.
Yeah.
Like not one of them was good. However, I guarantee when I was that deep into comedy doing it live, I wasn't good either. So it's hard to judge. Like you're generally just like when you're new, you're kind of bad.
Yeah.
Like that's really how it goes. And I think maybe these people are definitely a little worse. I did one like virtual show, and I had like I basically had like props with me almost. I had my girlfriend was like holding up signs. And that was like my way to like break the tension.
Producer, that was I produced his Zoom show.
Yeah, but like it was the way to like kind of cross that like buffer of like there's no live laughter. Like you have to have a reaction. The people know to react.
Here's the thing. It's not stand-up. Stand-up is a very specific thing. Stand-up is a person, a microphone, and an audience. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a microphone, but it is a person and an audience. And that's it.
Yeah.
As soon as we add in props, guitar, another person, like a couple like, twin acts, as soon as you add in anything other besides a person and an audience, it becomes entertainment, a show, an entertainer. Yeah. Stand-up comedy is a very specific thing, I think, with rigid guidelines in order for it to be under the umbrella of stand-up. So if you're doing a show on Zoom, you still have to be funny, you still have to have a joke structure generally, or be more conversational, it doesn't matter, but it's just not stand-up. And I think that's a problem that people have is they think that doing something on Zoom is going to just translate over to stand-up, because it's just not the case. It's like, playing a video game and then going to play the actual thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's something. So I think, I feel like some people are prone to, so I'm one of those people who I definitely laugh more when other people are laughing. Like it's contagious. I've been to a handful of stand-up shows. I went to one kind of right before COVID in Atlantic City. I lived down near there. And when I was in New Orleans, there was a good kind of divey neighborhood bar that would have a good open mic night where like people would drop, like Hannibal Buress dropped in when I was living there, which was cool. I didn't see him, but he did. And like, I was just laughing my ass off. And, my friend, we are in great times. Like his girlfriend was a, stick in the mud and she wasn't laughing. Like I could see that too. with some people, but with me, it's like there's such a difference between being there in person. Then there's a difference between watching it on TV, but there's the audience there, like all these specials. Like, yeah, that plays into it also. The worst to me, which is just like they should just stop doing, is stuff what like Trevor Noah does. Like, it is so painful where he's cracking jokes and there's not even a laugh track or an audience there. So it's just
the
Daily Show. Yeah, and to me, it's brutal to hear these like
just making jokes in the silence.
making jokes in the silence. Like, who greenlit this? Who thought this was a good idea? To me, it's painful to watch.
Yeah, I can't stand people with accents telling Americans are dog shit. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Get some fucking American people to shit in America.
Yeah, hey,
All right,
we can
guys?
do that. We can shit on our people. You can't do that.
Like, I can't say the N-word, but a black guy can. It's like, if you're American, bitch, you're an American. If you have a fucking accent, beat it, pal. All right? I'm tired of it.
The exceptions are I openly will discriminate against two groups of people. Gypsies, no matter where they're from.
Sure,
and,
definitely from.
and Australians. I will rip on Australians.
Yeah.
They
love
those
Australians.
culturalists. Oh yeah, I'll rip on them though. Like, I think I
When I bartend and an Australian guy says cheers instead of thank you, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It makes me sick. Just say thank you. Cheers, Mike. Cheers.
To me, it's not even. It's not even the like. Yeah, I guess I fall into that stereotype. Like, when I hear a British person speak, for the most part, like, there are tons of different accents, but like, it does sound smarter to me. And a lot of them. Australians, like, the exact opposite. So you could have a PhD, and if you're speaking with a Melbourne accent, as I pronounce it, just to piss them off. That's what I said. I tweeted that. I said, if I ever go to Melbourne, I'm going to pronounce the earn so fucking hard. Yeah. They correct you. It's Melbourne. It's like, nah, that's not how I pronounce it.
It's Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's been around since the 19th century.
Yeah. I don't know. I've traveled with a bunch on numerous occasions, and I don't know, they pissed me off. So I'm sorry, Joe, that I'm alienating all our 100,000 Australian listeners from the podcast.
Yeah, piss off, mate.
One of my goals in life is I don't want to be barred from any country, but I want to be a persona non grata somewhere. Just like, you're not welcome here. Like, yeah, you can come, but you're not welcome here. And I'm trying to work on that with Australia.
I love Australians because to me they're just like warm Canadians. You know? I
guess. To me,
they're
like,
very down to earth. They love beer. Like,
yeah.
Not too academic.
They're fun to party with. They're fun to party with, but it's like 1 minute after partying with them, it's like, all right, I've had enough.
I can't really hit on Australia either, only because based off my statistics of my solo podcast, 4% are from Australia. So
yeah, you can't alienate that.
Good night, mate. Just count to 10. Back next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So when did you start? Just count to 10.
So I was like super duper high, and just kind of like
always a good start.
Always a great start.
Start a business venture.
Yeah. And I was just like, let me just set up the microphone for our podcast equipment. He was out of town. I was bored to tears. I'm like, let me just like rant for 15 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I think this is kind of funny. It's kind of like my version of Bill Burr's morning podcast. And again, I wasn't doing stand-up. So I didn't have that outlet to like rant and be mad and talk about shit on stage, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just like reached out to some like kid in Thailand to create some like, logo for me for like $5. And I basically just started doing, weekly shows or weekly episodes of me just talking about the stuff that pissed me off that
so
week.
it's like the equivalent of I don't know if you guys like The Office, but where there's like Creed thoughts, and it's just like Creed into a word document. So just Vinnie thoughts, just letting it go into the ether and hoping people listen.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So it's no guests or anything.
No, it's just me.
And no Pat.
No Pat. Yeah.
No Pat. Pat, how do you feel about this? I'm gonna do Jerry Springer.
I remember when he started, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna listen to the podcast?" I was like, "I already listened to you complain all day. Come on,
I was the original podcast."
Like, this is my entire day. It's listening to you complain about things.
Support the podcast, man. What the
fuck? All right. So I think, I wanted to hold off from just talking about growing up and stuff because Joe wasn't there for those days in Jersey, but I would like to bring up a few things because I still think about them. And Pat, so I kind of mentioned before, that, you know, I asked you guys, has the tides kind of changed on some bits or some areas of whatever culture, comedy? You used to wear on Fridays a poncho to school.
Did.
And for Poncho Fridays, and
Fridays, baby.
Joe, as I asked on his first episode, is Mexican. So Joe, how does that make you feel? Was Pat appropriating your culture in 2006?
Yeah, and I would like some reparations for that, please. If you can give me a catalog.
He made $0, so you're gonna
Yeah,
check.
But that was a thing.
I'll give you a kickback in the percentages.
Yeah.
All right,
And
okay,
the
fair
guy
enough.
who started, and for the record, the guy who started Poncho Fridays, not Mexican.
No.
Also not Mexican.
All right, give me his name too. Give me his name too.
Jewish, and he would just
Schwartz.
wear. And I think it was.
circumcised, right?
No, he's circumcised.
Oh, okay.
I've seen his penis.
All right.
I would put money on circumcised, given, you know.
I mean, I can tell you for a fact I've seen his.
That's true. They were wrestlers, so
Yeah.
Fair enough.
not you, Ben. You didn't wrestle, but
No, no.
right, no. Pat, the wrestling team wasn't homosexual, but it was like homosexual adjacent. Like
It was homoerotic.
it was homoerotic. They had homoerotic, definitely had homoerotic proclivities there. On
It was
the road to wrestling
homoerotic.
team.
It was a lot of penises. A lot of
It
penises.
was a lot.
I like that subtle correction. It was homoerotic, actually. Fall of 29.
Homoerotic.
Yeah, you guys weren't gay, but you practiced being gay, though.
Exactly.
Hey, if you ever need to come in handy, might as well be good at it, right? You never know.
Not gay if it doesn't feel good.
No,
It's not gay if you don't come. That's what we always
Exactly. That's how I would say.
So it was gay, is what you're telling
Oh,
me.
got it.
All right. Gay, confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Boy.
All right.
Hey, real quick. For some reason, Zoom does a stupid thing where it's like if I schedule a meeting beforehand, it says there's only like a few minutes left for. I don't know why.
It's never happened before. What happened?
So I think it's like a monthly limit. If you do the free thing, I think there's a certain amount of minutes you can do or whatever. So here's the thing. Like worst case, this conversation ends and I just have to resend the invitation or something like that.
Yeah, all good.
But yeah, just letting you guys know in the case this cuts out in the middle of the conversation.
We're just gonna Irish exit on this on the Zoom.
No, we did a podcast too, and after an hour it cuts off. So yeah, you could just in like 2.5 minutes, you could just stop it and we'll just pick up.
Start again. Okay, cool.
All right. So I guess we'll dive into something really deep right now and just get cut off in the middle of it.
Yes, please. Childhood
Yes, yes, please. You guys co-wrote a pilot?
That's right.
Yes, we did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, for the par moving to LA, I feel like you have to have a pilot with your lease. You have a pilot.
Yeah, so they actually don't let you sign a lease.
Yeah.
Throw you out.
First month, last month's rent, and pilot.
Pilot that then some 60-year-old Jewish exec just shits on and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no Jews. What are we doing here?
Joe, how many pilots have you written?
Well, luckily, my parents are the landlords of the house that I live in, so they were able to kind of just like,
Nice.
yeah, we don't care about pilots or spec scripts or anything like that. So we're gonna.
There you go.
So, yo, where do you guys live in LA, by the way? Are you in West Hollywood?
North Hollywood.
No, he moved.
Oh, is that the gay
He's
one?
in North Hollywood or Valley Village. I'm in Studio City. We're 5 minutes apart.
All right. Which
We're a
is
mile
the gay
now.
one, Pat? Would that,
What's that?
was that the gay one? That would track.
West Hollywood is the
Oh,
gay
West
one.
Hollywood. All right.
That's where we lived when we first got here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You know, so that came in handy when you moved out
Yeah,
there.
I was ready. It's
Yeah.
like, even with all the penis knowledge I needed for that neighborhood.
Well, right. What have you guys done with the pilot?
Not much.
We've punched it up, punched it down, punched back up again. And then, I mean, we're trying, but the thing that we're doing is we pass it around to some people to read it and give feedback.
Wait, did I read this pilot?
Oh, yes,
I
you
think so.
did. Yeah.
I read this pilot.
That's right. Yeah. You read like one of the
Alright.
first like copies.
Yeah.
We've like changed slightly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but
I think my note was change taxi to Uber. and
Yes,
that was it.
no, you got a couple of good ones. No, you had a couple of good
Thank you.
notes. But basically what we're trying to do with, it's very short. What we're trying to do with that is basically shoot either the whole thing, which is very, you know,
Ambitious.
aggressive, or just shoot a part of it to get a tone of the pilot. So that way we have a physical copy of it and then also something filmed to where they get like, you know, kind of a tone of the show.
Yeah. So Joe, so where you come in, you are currently filming a short film. we'll get that figured out.
Yeah.
And we're back.
All right, cool. So we were talking about you guys have a pilot.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were talking about where we left off. Basically, I asked you, Joe, because they were talking about what they want to do with it.
Oh yeah.
Are you still in the process of shooting your short film?
No, we just finished filming it last weekend.
Just wrapped.
Yeah, we wrapped. It's a piece of shit. It's really, really bad. It really fucking sucks. I'm serious. It was. We watched it. Like we scored it. So it's a horror film, right? And we're trying to get it into a Screamfest film festival here in LA. And
Well, so far you have a good elevator pitch. You should buy this. It's dog shit. It's scary how bad it is.
I mean, it was something that like a couple of remedial 8th graders made. Like it's really, really bad. But here's the thing. Like my friend and I, he does sound for movies and TV shows. He's been living in LA for a few years. He's basically kind of the reason why I moved down here, because we always talked about making horror movies together. So I moved down here, and like we kept starting projects and never finishing them. And then it was just kind of like, all right, dude, like the deadline is the 15th. Like I don't care if we don't even get accepted. We have to submit something. We have to finish something. So we did it. It was a script that I wrote with him, and we directed it, and we got some friends together to shoot it at our house, and we scored it and everything and edited it and everything. So like the last 3 or 4 days, we just been like cramming, just like editing and scoring and doing all that shit. Picking up a few last minute shots here and there. And so it was like, I think we submitted it like at 11 o'clock, like 59 minutes before the absolute deadline. So like, all right, fine. It's a piece of shit, but we finally finished something. So it's done. It's in the can now. So. But yeah.
So we're not gonna. You didn't like write a note with it to the judges, right? This fucking sucks. Well, it's like homeless zombie rapist, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's very LA.
Nonfiction.
It's very nonfiction. Yeah. It's and people look back like Taxi Driver, like, oh, that's really New York in 1970s. This is LA in the 2020s.
Yeah.
No, actually, we considered putting a note in the submission form. Just be like, by the way, we're 8 years old.
There's actually a documentary.
Yeah.
Wait, so who films your stuff, and like who edits and?
We did basically. So I have a nice camera. It's a Blackmagic 4K camera, resolution camera, and we've got some lights, and we both have editing software. I did the score for it. So yeah, we made most of it. My friend, he's got some friends in the industry, so he had a few people come in. Like one girl was a makeup artist, like a professional makeup artist. A couple of people who've done like grips and stuff. So they helped us with cinematography. But yeah, for the most part, we did pretty much. We shot everything with our own stuff, pretty much. So.
Well, dude, if you want to help out and help Pat.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, that's what I said. I want a line.
Yeah.
It's like a bartender with the rag.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, I can help you guys shoot like if you want to shoot a few scenes, just like test footage, just kind of like.
Yeah, we just want to get. We have a
Gotcha.
Yeah, we have exactly. Just a couple things you want to shoot that should be super, super simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, dude.
Yeah. I can definitely help out with that. So.
All right, cool.
Elastic friendships on the Reckless.
There you go.
Reckless Musecast. Yeah, I want to. So we were talking about I want to come to LA and make it like a habitual thing and do some live shows. Well, not live shows, but in person shows.
Oh yeah, totally.
We want people. Wait, Vin, you said you're in Studio City?
Yeah.
Is that where Alma is, Joe?
Yeah, that's actually she does live in Studio City. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of our guests on episode 3.
I think I watched that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So she lives. Don't kill her, but she lives in your neighborhood.
Can't guarantee it.
But yeah, so just like the people who are local, who we have on, we want to just have on our in-person show. So you guys are welcome. You get the TRM welcome. And I told Joe that if he's shooting anything, I expect to have a cameo in all future projects going forward.
Nice.
It's in my contract.
But
Joe,
yeah.
where are you at right now?
I live in Highland Park.
Okay.
Yeah. A hipster neighborhood out here. But it's just pretty cool though.
So
Yeah,
I always felt like, trying to get something filmed, one of the hardest things for like most people who aren't connected to like a studio is the cost of it.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like. I have to imagine like the special effects makeup alone was probably expensive, like a zombie movie, right?
Yeah, well, it was just for one character, and I think she was like 20 years old. So she was actually working on a feature-length film, so she had some experience, but she was still pretty young. So I think my friend just paid her like $120 a day or something like that. And it was for one day, so it wasn't too bad. It wasn't super elaborate, but it was like, she basically only did like a few hours worth of work. It wasn't really, but that's the thing with film sets though, where it's like, you're there for 12, 14 hours a day, but you only work for 6 or 7 hours. Like, most of it's just kind of sitting around waiting for them to set up the camera, sort of thing.
Totally.
But
Wait, is it actually homeless zombies, or I thought I just made that up? Is that?
It does involve one homeless person who's got some kind of weird demonic shit going on. But
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny. So it was actually inspired by a true story. One night,
Of course.
one night I was walking to the grocery store, and there's a homeless person sitting on the street on the sidewalk, and he's talking to a radio, but the radio is just emitting static. Like he's having a conversation with a staticky radio, and that really creeped me out. And so that was like 7-8 months ago, and so my friend and I, we started bouncing ideas around that, and then another friend of mine who lives in the neighborhood, he came by he doesn't really work in film, but he just wanted to like hang out and watch us film this thing. So he asked me what the film was about, and I told him about the hobo, and he goes, "Oh, is he the hobo who's right across the street from Smart and Final?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I've seen that guy, like just hanging out in the street corner, just talking to his staticky radio." Yeah, so we were really creeped out by that. So that was kind of like the genesis of it.
Damn, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah,
This guy talking to a radio at staticky.
Yeah. Like he was having like radio, like, "Oh yeah, is that what I should do?" Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can't hold down a job.
Have you guys had any experiences with all that? Because I feel like I listen to, so what I was getting at before with the podcast and COVID and everything, like my podcast intake quintupled or more than that over COVID, just because I was working from home, and I'd get up and take a piss and I'd throw on a podcast. Like I'd make food, I'd throw on a podcast. Like before it was just in the car. I'm really just turned into an everyday thing. So I have a wide array now, and a lot of them are in LA, and it seems like every single person has, or New York even, or in the city, has a story with a run-in with some sort of crime. Now, have you guys dealt with any of that in LA?
We've been our old apartment got robbed once.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
My car got broken into like 5 times in the garage of that apartment, and it was funny. It was the same people every time. It was these homeless black trans ladies.
Right, it's a sequel. That'll be the sequel to your movie. homeless black trans lady 2, Electric Boogaloo.
They sent us footage of them in the garage, like pictures, and it's literally LeBron in a fucking dress. Yeah. Stealing Pat's beach cruiser.
Yeah.
Pat, did you have anything in there worth stealing?
They stole my bike.
Yeah.
Out of your car?
Out of the garage. I had like chained up.
Out of the garage.
Yeah.
Oh,
and they
shit.
stole it.
Yeah, these black trans had tools.
They weren't messing around.
No, it was a full-blown operation. Yeah.
Luckily, they never actually took anything out of my car. I would just come back and like everything in my glove box was on my chair.
There's a window punched open. It's like, you're not even taking anything. At least
they would
take
unlock
something.
my car somehow.
Yeah, so same thing with me. So in our next spot, the place where Pat lives right now.
Cat burglars.
The place where Pat lives now, we were roommates, and the same thing happened to me. I came down one morning and nothing was broken. It's almost like they just unlocked my car somehow, and all of my papers and shit were all over the place, and they didn't even take anything.
Just to fuck with you. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I mean, like, and I had some stuff they could take. I had like a nice knife you could take. I had like a couple pairs of like shoes, a couple sweatshirts, like stuff you could take, I guess, but like I don't know what they're looking to find. But yeah, it's all over the place, man. Like
it's more the thrill, it seems like.
I guess so. Yeah. His catalytic converter got stolen.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like he was like driving a fucking lawnmower for a while.
I got a new place. I got a new car, and I used to have a Prius. So like until I sold the Prius, I parked on the street for like 2 days, and then I went out to move it here for like so I wouldn't get ticketed for street sweeping. And I turned it on. I thought I was like in the middle of a war. It's so loud.
Well, one time in Santa Monica, I had like one of the most like the funniest conversation with a homeless person. So when I first moved to LA, I was smoking a ton of weed, and I was walking to the 7-Eleven, and I see this homeless lady outside. And I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, just looking for some change." And I'm like, okay, on the way out. So I go into 7-Eleven to get some change. And again, I'm not trying to be a dick. I was just super duper high. And I go outside and I go, all right, here's some change. And she's like, oh, thank you very much. And I go, so what are you saving up for? And she's like, to live? And I go, oh, okay. She's like, and I just want to treat myself. I go, well, if you want to treat yourself, go to Six Flags. I'm telling you, I went last week. It was a blast. And she's like, okay. I go, but if you go there, promise me you'll get the Flash Pass. It's an extra $60, but it's so worth it. I mean, if you don't get the Flash Pass, basically paying money to get somewhere.
She's asking for change.
And she's like, okay. And I'm like, you have a good night now. And she's like, all right. It was the only time I think where like a homeless person and a home full person had a conversation, and the homeless person walked away going, that guy's fucking nuts.
Yo, yeah. I would kind of bring this back full circle to the wine shop, Vinnie, where we worked together.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time, I would run next door to the Panera to get food or coffee sometimes, and a guy was out, which is kind of like surprising. Like there weren't a lot of people asking for money in that area, but like he was asking for change. I was like, all right, so I give him $1 or something. I come back, I go in the wine shop where I work. He buys a tall boy Budweiser. I was looking at him like, you son of a bitch. Like, I would have had, and he even said like, I'm hungry, I want food. If you just said I want to buy beer, I would have bought him the beer. I don't give a shit. But like, it was like he tricked me in that. I couldn't. I was gonna like not take his money. It's like we didn't acknowledge that this happened 15 minutes ago, but like we knew, like we looked at each other, it was like, all right, you pulled a fast one on me, guy.
Dude, so Ben and I, we worked in this liquor store, and it was in a very affluent town, but it was on this stretch of highway to where like you could get some riffraff. And the place that we had worked had been robbed at gunpoint twice. And the second time happened like the week I started working, but I wasn't there, luckily. But this dude, I think his name was like Ahmad or something, but it was like this like
Amir.
This like fat, the black dude, right? Yeah. So it's this like really overweight black dude, so fucking nice, so funny, and he was there when they got robbed. So I'm working the day after, and there's a police officer there, the owner and manager, and we're going through the footage to try to like see if we can find anything. And everyone's like, all right, so everyone watch the footage. When the guy comes in, if you can notice a tattoo, what he looks like, anything, right? So we're watching intently, and all of a sudden, Amir just goes, "Holy shit!" And we're like, "What?" He's like, "I'm that fucking fat." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I mean, I don't see myself on a daily basis. When you're on camera, shit, they ain't no lies. I'm fucking huge." I was like, "Yeah, you're kind of large. Do you know anything about the robber?"
The guy with the shotgun pointing at your head. Yeah, I remember because I started after you, Vin, and people like talked about it. They're like, wait, didn't they just get robbed? I'm like, yeah, that means they're not due for one for a while. Like they're not gonna hit it twice. Like, so that was good. Yeah, we had some good times there.
We were there when the kid was kicking heroin.
No.
There was this kid who got hired for literally a shift. His like dad dropped him off. He's like, all right, thanks for hiring him. And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. And he's just like the whole day just like kind of like sweating and going to the bathroom and stuff. He's like, I think I have the flu. And we're like, oh, okay. And he like just disappears. And the next day I'm like, hey, so what happened to that new kid? He's like, oh, well, his dad told me he was kicking heroin. So he relapsed last night. So.
Oh, geez.
I was there for, who's the little Asian dude who was stealing from the place the entire time? That I was there for that. He was like, he was stealing Newports. The entire time we were there, just like,
oh yes,
and he got caught basically. Like this girl came up, and then we'll move on from this. Like this girl came up who was like clearly underage. I mean, we all did it, but or that's off the record. But he's just clearly underage, and like she knew him, so he like started to ring her up, and then our bosses like kind of walked out of his little office, and was like there and. Basically like he was gonna take over so that the employee could go do something else, and he's like no I got it, and I was like, oh fuck. And then like so the girl he like asked for ID and she left and didn't come back because she wasn't 21. But yeah, some good times there. I remember you just like putting on like different, what was it when someone sorry, when someone ordered like a Chianti, you do the Hannibal Lecter thing. You remember that?
Oh my God, yeah.
Someone would buy a Chianti and you would do it as you're ringing them up.
We had this like big Carlo Rossi, like literally like 3 gallons of wine. Like the old ladies are coming by and it would like last them the year. And they would put on the thing and I'd be like, oh, Chianti, huh?
right to their face. And I just cannot keep I can't even keep a straight face talking about this shit, let alone. Like,
I remember one time, it was during like a Jewish holiday, and this lady walked in who was clearly Jewish, and I go, Manischewitz, back left, and my boss goes, you can't say that, and I go, well, we all know what she's buying. He's like, yeah, for her to ask for it, please.
Yeah. So, yeah. Who's your inspiration? Like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So I just because we brought him up before, Sam Kinison. I just like discovered him recently. I like didn't know who he was until I actually watched, coincidentally, the Comedy Store. My face is fucking tingling right now. the Comedy Store documentary, which I want to go to, but I know like 3 places in LA I want to do. To me, LA, and I know Joe's gonna get mad because I shit on LA all the time. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but to me, it's like traffic jam, smog, now homeless people, and like Hollywood. And I'm sure it's nicer than that, but like, I just know like a few places. I went to the Comedy Store. What was that?
And Hollywood's the worst part of those 3.
Right, exactly. I want to do like Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset, was it Boulevard or Strip or whatever? That's where the Comedy Store. I like Venice, which I heard is kind of like, I don't know, Kabul now. Maybe Kabul's like actually nicer now that the Taliban took over. But, like I don't know what are those like the main spot. Like, what am I missing there? Like I have to say.
Hollywood Boulevard is absolute garbage. Hollywood Boulevard is
it?
So when you mean have to see, you mean like for like the pure destruction factor?
Yeah, for the like the
again, like Terminator,
what's it called, like poverty porn or whatever.
Got it.
Hollywood Boulevard is Times Square.
Yeah,
and Times Square became like it's like what it used to be. Like Times Square has become
exactly what it originally was in the 70s.
Yeah,
no, but it's just as touristy as Times Square now, but with the
crime. That
70s.
Basically, just walk by. In one block, you can walk by a Church of Scientology, the Chinese Theater, and like 4 Spider-Man who have like Jordans on. And then like the rest of it is just like guys.
You can watch a Latino guy pretending to be Superman just harass an Asian couple.
You gotta give me money. And they're like, we didn't want the picture, but you took the picture, bitch. Come on, welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah. I remember in Rome, some guys were dressed up as like, and I don't know, I guess I was wrong. I assumed that like the state, it was Europe, so I was like, I assumed the state like paid for them to dress up in gladiator outfits to take pictures of tourists. I was fucking wrong. Like they were pissed when, they take the pictures and they pose all that, and then the hand comes out, and I'm like, no, dude, like you're doing your job. It's like, no, that is how they make money.
You get a pension, pal. You don't need any pension.
Yeah, really. You get healthcare and shit. Yeah, really. Anyway, what do we have to touch on still? What are you guys working on?
I guess we're
starting up a monthly show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So Pat and I.
What do you mean? A podcast?
No, a stand-up show. So where we do basically like 90% of our open mics is this place called Fourth Wall Comedy, which is, we said it all the time on our podcast, and we're trying to get a monthly show where we book our buddies, we book some cool headliners, and it's just something to where like Pat and I know we have a show at least once a month. And it's also just really good to be able to trade spots with people. Like, hey, want to do a spot on my show? And someone who has a show is like, oh, cool, yeah, then you can do a spot on mine. So it's just, everything we do is kind of for like, getting better at comedy, but also networking. Like podcast.
Where's the show gonna be?
Just like a regular stand-up show. We're workshopping a name right now, but it's just a regular show. Where
our first one's going to be on September 3rd.
Yes, September 3rd.
Wait, I mean, is that a club or is it at a?
At a club, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
The one in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
It's in Hollywood. All right,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Fourth Wall Comedy Cafe in Hollywood.
Yeah.
On Hollywood
Comedy
Boulevard.
There you
Cafe.
go.
On Hollywood Boulevard. All right.
In the middle of a trash bag, you know. Benny, you'll love it.
Just popping out of trash and
Yeah.
giving
You
your
actually,
bits.
you park in the dollar store parking lots. You see a bunch of garbage people. It's perfect.
There you go. I want the authentic experience.
Oh, you'll get
When I
it.
visit.
You'll get it.
I'm gonna get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go to any 7-Eleven and you'll get an experience. Buddy, no fucking shit today, buddy. No fucking shit today. Hey, fuck you, motherfucker.
Sunset Boulevard 7-Eleven is the most central, like trash LA place.
Yeah.
People just walk in and steal.
Yeah.
And there's an armed
Oh
guard.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the guy
Wait, is that the law?
You don't do anything. He's like, "Man, I'm not doing this shit."
I went to a bar one time, and before I went to the bar, I stopped in at a 7-Eleven, and there was this like young black lady behind the counter, and this like older black guy as security, and the wait, we in the same spot?
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
there.
The guy walks in and just like, and she's like, I know you stealing shit. And he's like, yeah, so. And then she just walks out, and the security guard does nothing, and she's like, yeah, Grandpa, what the fuck was that shit? He's like, I ain't getting paid enough to do that shit. We won't let him back in because I ain't gonna stop the motherfucker.
Yeah, I was wondering because in San Francisco, it's like they changed the laws that just enable like they can do that legally. I don't know if that's the case in LA.
No,
In LA, it's just apathy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just,
it's just yeah. All right. I don't know what's worse, to be honest. Because yeah, and in San Francisco, they just go with shopping carts, like knocking shit off the shopping cart, and the security guard's like, I legally can't do anything. In LA, it's like I choose not to.
Bags.
Yeah. Please, fine, do it, but bring your own bags. We're cutting down on plastic. You know,
Yeah,
we're
come on.
eco-friendly here.
Yeah, be green.
Be green when you rob our shit.
But yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you guys something real quick. So I mentioned Zach, being my roommate, and for me, like whenever I meet somebody like, I'm a comedian, like I know nothing about what it's like being a comedian, so I think like, oh, that's cool. You do all these awesome clubs, you get paid a lot of money, and you get to meet lots of cool people. and Zach, and as you guys know, it's like. Yeah, I know. It's so one of the things I want to ask you guys is like, what are some like misconceptions about being like sort of like aspiring comics, especially in particular in LA? Like, what are some like weird things where it's like, yeah, this is a pain in the ass, or no, like this, it's not as glamorous as you think it is. Like, what are some weird things that people might not know about?
The opposite of what you said. We don't play cool clubs. We meet shitty people, and we make zero money. In fact, you have to pay money a lot of times.
To get to play.
I lose money.
Yeah. I'm in the red so hard.
And like, the biggest misconception is that we in fact pay to do it, and we're only doing it in front of other comedians.
Yeah, it's like doing magic in front of other magicians.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's a sock, pal.
Like,
fucking fun.
Like it's not just like cool bars you show up to for open mics where like a bunch of regular people are there to watch you perform. It's just you and 9 other people who are doing the same thing.
Right.
And it's also, is it like friends, like non-comedian friends, it's like, hey, be funny. Like I feel like that, like parents and stuff. Like parents are like, oh, you're a comedian, tell a joke.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
Oh yeah, like Pat and I just started. So we work at this country club with a bunch of people who are in the entertainment business, or just like just old people.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
like, so what are you doing? I'm like, oh, we're comedians. Like, oh my god, tell me a joke. And it's just never tell a joke that's one appropriate or two funny off stage. So now we're just like, so what do you do? We're just like, oh, we're just
Just a
losers.
loser,
We're just
yeah.
losers. Carry-
Losers.
Just carry golf.
Was
bags.
like there's starving artists, and then there's like malnourished artists who are like like you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Sarah McLachlan is like fucking making a video of us. It's like for 75 cents you can put your hat. The arms of the angel.
Just Vinnie in the garbage can all over the bar.
Yeah, just floated. like
Just
flies around the arms and stand up.
Look at him.
The guy.
Just look.
So I also heard that like different parts of LA kind of have like different vibes, where it's like, performing in Hollywood has this kind of vibe, but performing in Long Beach, it's a little more laid back or something like that. Like, do you guys have much experience with that, where it's like
Yeah,
different
when
parts of
LA,
LA?
it's just Spanish.
Like,
Yeah.
Down here, like in the city, there is a lot of, not everywhere, but there's a lot of places where like if you say certain stuff, people will pull back.
Yeah.
Like they won't laugh at it. And then you go up to like Ventura County,
Yeah.
and they don't give
Yeah.
a fuck.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
You say retard and bitch and whatever.
Yeah.
Do not care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also, oh yeah, so I forgot like my fifth stereotype with LA, which is my personal favorite one, is I just imagine it's I think porn stars is giving it too much credit, but
Porn workers.
yes, porn workers just walking down the street, basically, but that's more like in the valley, right? Like that's more the stereotype in the valley.
It's probably more in the city than the valley, right?
No, I think still Valley.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Still, yeah, I don't know, that's just what I imagine.
I've ran into like a couple in my
Yeah?
time. Yeah.
There's actually been a couple porn stars that have come into where I work, which is kind of weird. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's less of like, I think, back in like 5-10 years ago, 90s, it was like, LA, porn stars, Valley. Now it's like Instagram model, TikTok stuff. Like they're the replacement, like they're the new like beat off material,
Yeah.
As much as like they don't want to, like, no, I post inspirational pictures of your asshole. It's like we're all, it's like they're like the new version of that,
Right.
And they're all like in Hollywood and
Yeah, like the bar I used to work at is now like a bar for TikTok influencers.
Yeah. I swear, dude, I went to Silver Lake, the reservoir there, and it's probably got like, that's got to have like the highest population density of like Instagram models or something. Like almost everybody walking around that little reservoir was like super crazy attractive. Like, I mean, like it's like stylish and also super fit. So it's like, it's a bunch of influencers here.
Like influencers in the wild is one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow.
They're terrible people.
Yeah.
Most.
On that note, you guys
got to go soon, or
got to go soon?
Yeah, I'm actually doing an open mic in like a half hour, 40 minutes.
All right. Well, go
Oh, yeah.
Bill. Tell everyone where they can find you one last time.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram. It is I am Vinnie Falcone. And then our podcast, our podcast is called Go Nowhere Fast. Mine's Just Count to 10. Pat and I post all of our shows on Instagram. So if you're in LA or you're visiting and we have a show, which we should be having one at least once a month with our new show coming up,
Yeah,
come by and say hi.
definitely. And we'll put all of your links and stuff in the
description.
Yeah, in the description. I always forget that fucking word. In the description. And I'll let you guys know when I'm in LA. I'm thinking maybe the fall. Probably the fall. We'll see how things go. But thanks so much for coming on.
You got it.
Hope to see you guys again soon. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
let's have you guys on again sometime. So
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do it live when Benny's visiting.
yeah, that'd be great.
All right, sweet. And Joe, we'll get your number from Ben after this.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right, great. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
cool.
Thanks so much, guys.